Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Bricktober rolls on and we are into week 2 at this point. And we are taking a look at something that showed up pretty early, much earlier than I thought it was going to arrive. This showed up on my porch over the weekend. I didn't expect it to show up until later this week. So go ahead and leave us a like, because what we're taking a look at today is the Super7 ThunderCats Lion-O Deluxe action figure. Now, this is, of course, a Target exclusive right now. This was part of the Target Fall Geek Out. I believe it came out during the second week, and there were 2 figures with the line, Lion-O and Monkeyin. And I had originally pre-ordered both of them, but after looking at the Conan Deluxe figure, card and link right here, I actually decided to cancel Monkeyin and wait to see how I felt about Lion-O before I decided if I wanted any more figures from this line. Now, the Deluxe line is, of course, basically a stripped-down version of their Ultimates figures. That you get the figure, you get minimal accessories, and that's about it. That brings it down to a $35 price point. And this supposedly is a new sculpt for Lion-O. I can't speak to that because I don't have the Lion-O Ultimates, but from what Brian Flynn said, this is a new sculpt for him. You can see that there are minimal accessories here. The Eye of Thundera, fully extended, and the claw shield up here, which is a really nice golden. I really like that. This looks like it's the cartoon colors and not the original toy colors, which I like because that means this is gold instead of red. I just like the vibrancy of the cartoon colors for this line, how they pop. Like, he's definitely going to stand out on the shelf, even if I don't have anything else standing around him from the line. Looking at the card back, very basic. White on black, but I really like that. It looks really good. Lets the figure speak for itself. The stark background actually makes the figure pop even more. We have that classic ThunderCats logo across the top. The Eye of Thundera down here. Very nice. Very, very classy, I feel. On the back, we have a great shot of the ThunderCats, and I do believe that this came from the cartoon. We have, or at least promotional imaging from the cartoon. I don't know if it's a new image or not, but of course we have the ThunderCats all lined up along the bottom, the Cat's Lair up here, Mumra, once again, the ThunderCats logo. So when these went up for pre-order, I had originally ordered both of them, but like I said, I canceled Monkeyin, and we're going to wait and see how I feel about this one before I decide if I want to go all in on this line or if we want to even get Monkeyin. Right now, both of these are sold out. The pre-orders are sold out on the Target website, and it says check back closer to release date. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those deals where it's not going to be available again online, and they want you to go into the stores to find them. If that's the case, good luck, because I don't know about you, but at my Targets, none of this stuff is ever on the shelf. And if it is, it's much, much later after the fact. I don't know if living on the East Coast, it's because product doesn't make it all the way across the country when they come in California. I don't know, but I very rarely see these exclusives showing up in my Target or even in my Walmart. So let's stop talking about it. Let's get this open. Let's see how the figure is, and let's take a look at Super7's ThunderCats Lion-O Deluxe action figure, Target exclusive. Okay, here he is, Lion-O, out of his packaging, and putting the tape measure to him, we can see that he is 6.5 inches tall to the top of his head, 7 inches tall to the top of his mane right here. Once again, shorter than what I was expecting. I always thought Super7 Ultimates was at the 7-inch scale, and this is basically an Ultimates with less accessories. I really thought they were going to be taller than this. Now, I don't really have a problem with that. It's just taking me by surprise. Now, it has always been my understanding that you got Super7 Ultimates figures, and by default now Deluxe figures, because of how they looked. That Super7 pays attention to the sculpt, that they pay attention to the paint apps, that they don't want to make the figures ugly with a lot of unnecessary trenching, which is why you get things like single jointed elbows and single jointed knees here. That has always been my understanding. So having said that, let's take a look at how Lion-O looks. And we're going to start with the face sculpt right here. The face sculpt I don't really have a problem with. It's a very neutral face, and if you're only going to get one face sculpt, you kind of want that. I understand wanting to have multiple face sculpts, maybe a battle-ready one, maybe one where he's smiling, but if you want that, that's why there were the Ultimates figures. This just has the single one. So I like the sculpt. I think the sculpt is done well. This big swoosh of hair coming off to the side. Some people might think that's action, might consider that windblown, but honestly, this is how I remember him in the cartoon, that there was always like that one big woof off to the side. The issue that we're having with the paint apps, however, is look at the eyes. One eye is kind of looking forward and a little bit down, and the other eye is looking further down and off to the right. And that's a miss. You want the eyes both looking forward, especially on a figure, a character like Lion-O, who, you know, sight beyond sight. He needs to be looking forward. He has those cat eyes. The eyes very much stand out on Lion-O. A miss like this will be obvious. That will be seen. It's not something that you can hide. Some people may not like this dour neutral look. I understand that, but I think this is probably the safest route they could have gone if they were only going to give you one head sculpt. Now, looking at the sculpt of the figure in general, once again being a new sculpt, I can't compare it to the original Ultimates figure, but I do like the sculpt of the figure. He has those heroic proportions where you can see the muscles in him, you can see the abs right here, he has that musculature to him, but he's not overly bulked. That you do get the feeling that this is very much a fast, agile, lithe individual who will beat you either with strength or with reflexes. And I like that. It's how Lion-O should be. Panthro should be the big one, the buff one, the muscular one. And then you have ones like Tigra and Chitara that are slimmer, more lithe, fast, and agile. I like that if they go along with those body types, like they're right here, like Panthro and Tigra, that Lion-O occupies a space in between the two. I like that. I dig that. I think that's very well done. The colors on this guy just pop. Very bright, very stand out, which is the way that it should be, especially if they're going off of the cartoon colors. This bright red mane of hair, the bright blue with the dark blue border on it. The belt for the Eye of Thundera here is very much not very much, but it's a different enough blue to the other two that it stands out on its own as well. And then the boots, I think, actually match the belt, tying everything together. The paint on this is a very good choice. However, if we pull his arm out here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that on camera. I have a little bit of contact rub right here. I don't know if that's overspray, but it's just contact rub that I'll probably be able to clean that off. The spot where there is a little bit of slop is down here on the belt that you can see a little, where was it? I saw some overspray before, but you can see some slop right here, a little bit of overspray there in the corner. So it's nothing horribly egregious, but it is worth pointing out. I don't believe there's any other overspray anywhere else on the figure. I don't believe there's any slop anywhere else on the figure. The biggest offender to me for the paint applications is the eyes. So I think it's a good looking figure. I really do. And the skin tone even being so pale, he's going to stand out. He'll draw your attention, and as he should. So now that we've seen how he looks, let's see how he moves. Let's take a look at the articulation here. That Lion-O will do a full 360 with his head. You can look up fairly well. You can look down fairly well. He does have some really good tilt side to side. The arms will do a full 360 spin. There is no butterfly joint. The arms, you can hear those detents, will come up past 90. Now, before we go any further, there is one thing that I want to say. The arms, the hips, and the ankles here on mine were all pretty much frozen when I got him out of the packaging. I had to put him under some heat to get these movements, and you can hear the detents there. I don't mind that. I really don't, because I do feel like, although it took me back to NECA, I had NECA flashbacks, but I do feel like the tighter the joints, the better, because the longer they'll last that way. Just be aware of that. Whenever you pull them out of the packaging, don't try and brute force them, because like it got to the point, especially with the hips down here and the thin pegs, I was really concerned they were going to snap. So I gave them some heat treatment. Didn't take long. Now he moves just fine. So we also have a bicep twist right there. We have a single jointed elbow that unfortunately does not bring his arm up to 90. There is a hinge and swivel at the elbow as well. Wrists swivel. Both wrists hinge up and down. Oh, this one's a little stiff too. I didn't pay attention to that. Both wrists hinge up and down. You have some nice detail sculpt on the fingernails as well, where he has claws instead of actual fingernails. Let's get his arms up out of the way. Even after the heat, still a bit stiff, but much better than before. He has this ab crunch right here that he can't do a full spin, but he does get some movement side to side. He can crank back, he can come forward, and he has some side to side rocker. Also has the swivel joint at the waist right there. Can lean back a little bit, can lean forward a little bit more side to side. So putting them all into good use, you can get some pretty decent hula hoop action out of Lion-O here. Legs will go forward that far. They'll go back that far. They'll come up out to the side. Love that Lion-O is flexible. Once again, cat, big hunter cat. Hip swivel right here. Now, I feel like the trunks should have been bigger. I feel like the trunks don't come down far enough to cover the gap left by the articulation. We have single jointed knees that don't come to 90. And once again, the swivel is below the knee right here. No boot cut. Ankles will rock back. Listen to those detents. And that's even after I put the heat on it. Ankles will rock forward slightly. And of course, we have a forward-facing pin for some rocker. Now, Lion-O only came with 2 accessories, as you saw in the packaging. And the first one we're going to take a look at is the claw shield right here. A nice sculpt, a nice mold. Just enough detail that it needs, not overly detailed. I really like this. I like the sort of like the flow of the fur right here. I love the golden color. I really love the golden color. Even as a kid, when the original figure came out and this was red, I didn't like that. I love this gold right here. We have silver on the claws as well. Some really good paint application to the silver right here, as well as some decent paint application to the knuckles, the gems on the back of his knuckles. These, of course, being able to shoot out and shoot grappling hooks in the cartoon. This thing was so multifaceted. Loved it. Loved it. This is some really good work. Now you can see down in there, there's no peg. And there's no way a hand is going to fit in here. Basically, what he does is his hand pops off. You see how easily the hand pops off right there. And then this just fits over the forearm. It's a snug fit, but you can still get the movement out of the elbow. You can still bend the elbow right there. You can even, let's get this all straightened out. You can put it on different angles to get different poses out of him. I think this is a cool way of handling that. I like it. Not putting a peg in there, don't have an issue with that. I think it's pretty brilliant. The thing that I do have a bit of a raised eyebrow about is this peg on the side of his belt. That when I saw that, I originally thought there was going to be a way to peg the shield onto his belt right here so that he could keep this with him when he's not wearing it. But alas, there is no way to peg it in. So this peg, which is obviously a holdover from the Ultimates line, I'm sure there was some kind of hanger or maybe even the sheath version of this with the Eye of Thundera in it that would peg into the belt right there. But either way, whoops, this serves no purpose, as there's no way of pegging this onto the belt unless you drill it yourself, and I'm not telling you to do that. But there we go. That's how it fits on there. It's a nice snug fit. It looks good. It's proportioned correctly, and I just think that looks really cool. I love the claw shield. I don't know why, but like as a kid, I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. And then that, of course, brings us to the Eye of Thundera, the second most iconic sword of my childhood, second only to the Sword of Power. And I always thought this was cool. I think I always preferred the Eye of Thundera over the Power Sword. It looked more like a functioning sword. It had a normal blade. It looked like a real sword. I just thought this was so cool. I really loved this. Now, there's not much as far as paint apps go on this piece. The only thing that really has any color standing out is the Eye of Thundera in the middle, which I think they did a really good job. on painting something so small right there on both sides. I think that looks really cool. There's no other paint apps on the hilt or on the handle right here. Also, it's kind of molded in gray. I wish they would have done a more silver mold for this, just to make it stand out and to like make it like a bright silver counterpart to his golden claw shield right there. If you remember the 5.5 Conan figures that we took a look at last month, I feel like the silver they used on the Atlantean sword for those would have been fantastic for this one. Very thin blade, has some bend to it so it won't break, but it's also not so flimsy that you're just going to go bloomp and it's going to hold that position right there. This is bowed a little bit, but putting some heat on that, we'll be able to take care of that with no problem. Now, once again, referring back to my Conan review, if you remember, one of the issues I had with Conan was how stiff the fingers were to get the Atlantean sword. So much that we had to stretch the hand to get the sword in there, and then he was never able to get a really good grip on it. Well, these fingers are stiff as well. However, the hilt of the Eye of Thundera has a slimmer pommel than the Atlantean sword that we can sort of just finagle it in there. And then he gets a really decent, look at that hero. He gets a really decent grip on the sword that it's not loose. Also, the thumb coming up there helps hold it into position. He just has a genuinely better grasp on this than Conan had on his Atlantean sword. So, there we go. And now for size comparison, here he is beside Super7 Conan Deluxe and Ultimates Valeria. Here he is beside Hasbro Marvel Legends Ghost Rider and Lady Deathstrike. Here he is beside Valaverse Action Force Bone Collector version 2 and Pandora. Here he is beside Lanyard Toys City Hunter Predator and Xenomorph Drone. Here he is beside McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn and the Spawn series Medieval Spawn. Here he is beside Mattel Masters of the Universe Masterverse New Eternia He-Man and Masters of the Universe movie Skeletor. And finally, here he is with NECA Toys Dungeons & Dragons Warduke and Grimsword. So right off the bat, I feel much better about this one than I did about the Conan Deluxe figure. While the hands are still a little stiff, they're not nearly as stiff as Conan's were, and getting the Eye of Thundera in and out of Lion-O's hand is much easier and less stress-inducing than it was getting the Atlantean sword in and out of Conan's hand. Conan's hand I felt was going to snap every time I tried to put the blade, or tried to put the hilt of the sword in there. Lion-O's stretches just enough, but then retains a tight grip on the hilt, mainly because I believe of the thumb placement that you can really lock the hilt of the sword into his grip. The joints were really stiff, like worryingly stiff. But like I said, once I put some heat on it and I broke that initial stiffness, there's no problems with it now. Just be aware of that. Don't, like I said in the video, don't try and brute force it. Put some heat on it. I think you'll be fine. And now the articulation is fairly solid, still slightly limited, but we know we're going to get that with Super 7. So I don't think that's a point of complaint because we know that's just how this is going to be. I hope that when the D&D figures show up, they lean more towards what this Lion-O figure is and can do, and less towards what that Conan figure was. If the Dungeons & Dragons animated series figures come out and they're like this, I don't think I'm going to have very many complaints. They'll have their accessories, they'll have the articulation they need. All I want is for Hank to be able to draw the bow, but if they're like Lion-O here, I think that's going to be a hit. After playing around with Lion-O for this video, taking some photos of him, I really do want to get that monkey in now. As I said, currently sold out on the Target store website. Hopefully these will pop up other places and they're not going to stay just Target exclusives. Maybe if Super 7 can sell a few through their website. I know they often sell exclusives through their own website, so I'm hoping that Lion-O and Monkeyin will be able to do that because I would like to get my hands on Monkeyin. And who knows, if they bring out the rest of the ThunderCats in Deluxe, I may get this line. I don't think I would go all in on it, but I think I would definitely get the core team. I would get the mutants and Mumra, and then I think I would be good. If you collect the Ultimates ThunderCats line, let me know down below how this compares with those. They say it's a new sculpt. Let me know what is new about the sculpt, how it compares to the old figure. Also, let me know about that peg off the side of the belt. Can he hang the claw shield off of that, or was that for something else? Don't touch that dial. Before you go, please remember to do all the YouTube things, like, share, comment, subscribe. If you already are a subscriber, what a legend you are. If you like what we do here and you want to help the channel grow, please consider becoming a member, whether through YouTube memberships or our coffee monthly subscription. Links to that in the description below. Both of them for $1 a month, you can get access to exclusive content, such as our monthly member exclusive video. This month is the Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series Stinger. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.